Okay, now let's move on to the two other methods that we have pending, updating and deleting. We've discussed update is a put request to a instance URL. So basically, if you want to update a message with ID 2, you do a put request to /messages/2 with the request body containing the message in JSON format. That way it's very similar to the post, but the post does it to a collection URL and creates a new resource. The put sends it to an existing instance URL and it updates that existing instance. So it should actually be very obvious what you need to do over here for a put request. I'm just going to do add put, which is the put request method. Since this too accepts and sends back JSON, I'm going to copy these two over to this location here, and I'm going to create a public message update message. This accepts message as well, and I'm just going to return message service dot update message, and I'm going to send the message. Import put. So the message conversion happens just like it happens for post. Now the question is, what about the path, right? So the path is the message ID. So I'm going to just copy over this guy over here. So this is going to be the path, which is the message ID. Now here's the thing. We want to make sure that the message ID is set to the message that's being sent. We don't want the client to set the message over here, right? I'll tell you what I mean by that. Let me save this and switch to Postman. Now let's say I'm this is message ID 1, right? I want to change this to hello world with an exclamation point, say, right? So I could do a put. Let me copy this. Do a put. It opens up this thing again, the raw data. And now here, I make a change. Now, if I don't set this, there's really nothing here that sets it, right? So I'm just sending update message. So I need to send what the ID is in two places, over here and over here. I don't want to do this, right? I want the API to figure that out. So the way the API figures it out is by using this parameter in the path. So let's make the API smart enough to figure that out. So I'm using the message ID to map to the /messages/ID URL. And let me get that message ID. I'm just going to copy over this ID over here. Now I got the ID. Now before I send the message to the update message service, I'm going to set that ID over here. So I'm going to do a message dot set ID, and I'm going to pass in the ID. So no matter what the user sends, whether the user sends it or not, even if they send an incorrect ID, the ID that gets updated is always picked up from the URL. So it's a good thing to have, and I encourage you to think about implementing something like that for put requests. So everything here should look familiar. You have the path parameter, which takes in the ID from the path over here, and you have the message itself being picked up from the request body, and the consumes and the produces annotation is already familiar to you. So I'm going to set the ID, send it update message, and return it back. Let's test this and make sure it works. I'm going to send to /messages/1. The current value is hello world. I'm going to change it to hello world with an exclamation point. Let's add a couple more exclamation points to show that we are really excited about this. Okay, so now let's hit send. And there you see our new message that's updated. Since it's ID 1, it's going to be tricky to get it because we are hard coding ID 1 and 2. So let's do this. Let's create a new message and then update it so that we can actually test this out. So I'm going to create a message by doing a post request to /messages. I'm going to say this is a test message, and let's send. Created ID 3. I'm going to hit one more time, created ID 4. So if I do a get request to /3, I get ID 3. Now I'm going to update this by doing a put request, and I'm going to paste this, remove the ID, and change this, updated test message, hit send, it gets updated. Now if I do a get over here, I get the updated text message back. Okay, so this works. Okay, so now let's switch to our Eclipse IDE and do the delete method as well. Now even the delete is done to /message ID. So the way to do a delete is obviously using the delete annotation, which I import from the same ws.rs package. The path is the same, produces consumes is the same. Actually, we don't need the consumes because delete doesn't accept anything in the request body. So I'm going to remove that. Okay, so I'm going to create a public void delete message, which takes in the path parameter being the ID, and it just sends it to the service, right? It just does a message service dot remove message, and it sends the ID. We're not returning anything here. That's the reason why it's a void. I'm going to talk about other content types that we can use. We discussed no content in unit 1, so we're going to talk about ways to do that. And the cool thing about Jersey is it does all those things automatically, which we'll see in a minute. So this is the delete method, which takes in an ID and just removes that message. I'm going to hit save and run this, test this again. Okay, I'm going to do a post request. I think this is a post to create a message. So I'm going to do a post, create a new message in location 3. Now if I do a get, it should return 3 messages. Now I'm going to delete the message by accessing the messages /3 and doing a delete request here. We don't need anything in the request body. I hit send. There's nothing that's returned. There you see 204 no content. I'm going to talk about it later. But now let's switch back to our collection URL to see if the message is gone. I'm going to do a get request here. Hit send. There you go. We just have the first 2. The third one is gone. So yes, it's working. We have a get, post, put, delete, as well as a get for the message ID URL. So we have all the 4 operations of CRUD for the message ID URL /messages/message ID, and we also have a get for the collection URL, which is over here. One other tip that I would like to leave you with is look at all these consumes and produces annotations everywhere, right? So every method here either produces JSON or both produces and consumes JSON. So if this is something that every method follows, you don't have to annotate the method with the same annotation every time. What you can do is just take these annotations out and annotate the whole class. So you don't have to do this anymore, right? I can remove the produces and consumes annotation in every method here. Okay, and this is much shorter and easier to read. Okay, so we have completed some of the basic functionalities for the message resource handler. We're going to switch focus to the next set of APIs in the next tutorial. See you then, and thanks for watching.